In this video, I'm about to show you 25 microwavable food brands you can actually trust, and 10 you really shouldn't. Number 25. Whole Foods 365 Frozen Line. Whole Foods 365 is the kind of brand you reach for when you're tired of frozen meals playing tricks on you. It's not exciting, it's not indulgent, and it's not pretending to be restaurant food, and that's exactly why people trust it. Whole Foods enforces tighter ingredient standards across its private label products, which means fewer artificial preservatives, fewer synthetic colors, and more consistency from box to box. That consistency matters. You don't open one meal and think, this tastes nothing like last time. Texture holds better, flavors stay neutral instead of chemical, and you're not guessing what corners were cut. This is freezer food for people who just want something reliable, predictable, and safe. No drama, no regret afterward. Number 24. Stouffer's Classics. Stouffer's is not a brand you blindly trust, but their Classics line still earns a place when chosen carefully. These meals stick closer to older formulations, real cheese, simpler sauces, and fewer gimmicks. That shows up immediately when you microwave them. The sauce doesn't break, the pasta doesn't turn to glue, and the flavor doesn't rely entirely on salt. The key here is discipline. Stick to the basics and avoid novelty items loaded with fillers. When you do that, Stouffer's Classics feel familiar and steady, not over-engineered. This is the kind of frozen meal you choose when you want comfort without surprises. It's not fancy, but it respects the idea that frozen food should still behave like food. Number 23. Veggies Made Great. Veggies Made Great works because it doesn't lie to you. These meals are actually built around vegetables, not refined flour pretending to be healthy. You can feel that difference in both texture and digestion. The base ingredients are real vegetables, which means the food feels lighter, more natural, and less processed. There's no heavy aftertaste, no artificial sweetness, and no sense that flavor was manufactured in a lab. Portions are reasonable, instead of inflated with cheap fillers. This is the kind of frozen food you eat, and don't immediately feel the need to balance it out later. It's practical, honest, and built for people who want convenience without feeling tricked by health marketing. Number 22. Cascadian Farm Frozen Vegetables. Cascadian Farm proves that frozen vegetables don't have to turn into water. Their organic sourcing and minimal processing make a real difference once the food hits heat. When you microwave these vegetables, they hold their shape, their color, and their flavor, clear signs of proper freezing practices. There's no chemical aftertaste and no mushy collapse. That usually means faster freezing and less added water, not shortcuts. This is the brand you buy when you're tired of frozen vegetables disappointing you. It quietly does its job well without flashy packaging or fake seasoning. If you want vegetables that still feel like vegetables after heating, Cascadian Farm is one of the safer bets in the freezer aisle. Number 21. Green Giant Simply Steam. Simply Steam works because it refuses to overcomplicate things. No sauces, no seasoning packets, no distractions, just vegetables, properly frozen. That simplicity actually takes discipline. The texture stays firm, not soggy, and the flavor remains natural instead of salty. Many frozen vegetable brands rely on sauces to hide poor quality. Simply Steam doesn't need that. It's built for people who want control over their food instead of surprises. You can add your own seasoning, pair it with anything, and trust that it won't fall apart. This is freezer food for people who are tired of frozen vegetables failing at the one thing they're supposed to do: stay intact and edible. Number 20. Daily Harvest Microwavable Bowls. Daily Harvest feels intentional, and that's rare in frozen food. Their bowls rely on flash freezing, which helps preserve texture, nutrients, and flavor far better than slower freezing methods. That's why ingredients don't turn mushy, and why flavors taste clean instead of dull. There are no artificial preservatives doing the heavy lifting here. The freezing process does that job. These meals feel thoughtfully assembled, not mass-produced for shelf life alone. You choose Daily Harvest when you're busy, but still care how your food makes you feel afterward. It's not cheap, but it doesn't feel cheap either. You finish the bowl without that heavy, processed feeling most frozen meals leave behind. Number 19. Cauliflower Frozen Bowls. Cauliflower stands out by refusing to rely on filler starches. Their bowls use vegetables as the foundation, not as decoration. That matters because texture stays cleaner, sauces aren't artificially thick, and flavors don't feel engineered. When heated, these meals hold together instead of collapsing into a starchy paste. That's usually a sign of better formulation and fewer shortcuts. This brand works well for people who want convenience but are tired of frozen meals that feel bloated and fake. Cauliflower doesn't promise miracles, it just avoids unnecessary nonsense. In a category full of over-processed options, that restraint alone makes it worth trusting. Number 18. Udi's gluten-free frozen meals. Gluten-free frozen food often suffers from texture problems because of heavy gum and stabilizer use. Udi's keeps those additives more controlled, and it shows. Meals hold their structure, sauces don't feel glue-like, and the food actually resembles what it's supposed to be. Ingredients are straightforward, and flavors stay balanced instead of aggressively salty. This is gluten-free food designed for real people, not just labels. You don't feel punished for needing gluten-free options? For anyone who's tired of frozen meals that fall apart the moment they're heated, Udi's offers something rare: reliability without over-processing. Number 17. Alpha Foods Burritos. Alpha Foods Burritos prove that plant-based convenience doesn't have to feel empty. Protein levels are solid, sodium is controlled, and the burritos actually survive the microwave intact. That matters more than people realize. When a burrito doesn't leak oil or split open, it's usually because the ingredients were properly balanced, not overloaded with cheap fillers. These burritos feel filling without being heavy, and the flavor doesn't rely on artificial enhancers. This is the brand you grab when you want something fast but don't want that hollow, unsatisfied feeling afterward. Alpha Foods quietly delivers where many plant-based frozen meals fail. Number 16. Michelangelo's Frozen Italian Meals. Italian frozen meals are risky, but Michelangelo's consistently avoids the worst mistakes. Real cheese, proper pasta, and sauces that don't separate after heating are clear indicators of better formulation. These meals don't rely on excessive stabilizers to hold together, and the flavor stays balanced instead of aggressively salty. Portions feel intentional, not padded. This is comfort food that actually comforts instead of disappointing. You choose Michelangelo's when you want something warm and familiar, without it tasting like factory leftovers. It's not gourmet, but it respects the basics, and that's what most frozen Italian meals get wrong. Number 15. Purple Carrot Frozen Meals. Purple Carrot takes plant-based food seriously. Ingredients are flash frozen to preserve texture, which prevents the mushy, lifeless feel common in vegan frozen meals. Flavors are layered rather than flat, and the food doesn't rely on sugar or salt to feel satisfying. These meals don't feel like diet food or compromises. They feel intentional. This is frozen food for people who care about what they eat but don't want to cook every night. Purple Carrot proves that plant-based convenience can still feel thoughtful and complete. Number 14. Dr. Praeger's Frozen Meals. Dr. Praeger's earns trust by keeping ingredient lists short and readable. No synthetic flavor enhancers, no artificial colors, and no unnecessary fillers. Meals are vegetable forward and built around simple combinations that heat well. That simplicity is exactly why they work. You don't get weird textures or chemical aftertastes. This is frozen food that doesn't feel like a lab experiment. You eat it and understand what you're eating. For people who value clarity and honesty in their food, Dr. Praeger's delivers exactly that. Number 13. Sweet Earth Foods. Sweet Earth builds plant-based meals around actual ingredients instead of heavy emulsifiers. That's why texture holds and flavors feel natural after heating. The meals aren't overloaded with salt or sugar to mask weak components. Everything tastes balanced, not forced. This brand works for people who want plant-based convenience without fake meat overload or chemical aftertaste. Sweet Earth doesn't shout, it just performs. And in frozen food, that quiet consistency is a big deal. Number 12. Kashi Frozen Bowls. Kashi focuses on satisfaction, not just calories. Whole grains, fiber, and real ingredients help these bowls actually keep you full. That's why you don't finish one and immediately feel hungry again. Flavors are simple and controlled, not over-engineered. These meals are designed for people who want frozen food to function as a real meal, not just a temporary fix. Kashi bowls feel balanced, predictable, and steady qualities that matter more than hype when you're eating them regularly. Number 11. Lean Cuisine Balance Bowls. Lean Cuisine's balance line shows noticeable improvement over older versions. Protein ratios are better, fiber is increased, and sodium is more controlled. These meals aren't exciting, but they're consistent and predictable. You know what you're getting every time. That reliability matters when frozen food is part of your routine. Balance bowls are built for people who value control and structure over indulgence. They don't pretend to be something they're not, and that honesty makes them usable. Number 10. Healthy Choice Simply Steamers. Simply Steamers avoid the biggest mistake diet frozen meals make: tasting fake. Sauces are simple, seasoning is balanced, and there's no chemical aftertaste lingering after the meal. Portions are reasonable, and the food doesn't feel like punishment. This line works for people who want something lighter without feeling deprived. Healthy Choice finally figured out that healthy doesn't have to mean miserable, and Simply Steamers reflect that shift clearly. Number 9. Tattooed Chef. Tattooed Chef stands out because effort is visible. Whole vegetables, grains, and controlled sodium hold up well after heating. These meals don't collapse into mush or taste unfinished. You can tell they were tested, not rushed. For plant-based frozen food, that's important. This brand is for people who want convenience, but still expect basic quality. Tattooed Chef doesn't overpromise, it just delivers solid, dependable meals. Number 8. Applegate Frozen Breakfast Items. Breakfast shortcuts are easy to spot, and Applegate avoids the worst ones. Antibiotic-free meats, no synthetic preservatives, and cleaner fat choices make a noticeable difference. These breakfasts don't leave you feeling greasy or heavy. Portions are filling without relying on salt bombs. This is frozen breakfast for people who don't want to start their day feeling regretful. Simple, clean, and reliable. Exactly what breakfast food should be. Number 7. Annie's Frozen Mac and Cheese. Annie's succeeds by keeping things honest. Real cheese, no artificial dyes, and fewer additives than most competitors. The texture holds, the flavor feels familiar, and nothing tastes engineered. Is it perfect? No. But it doesn't pretend to be. And in frozen mac and cheese, honesty is rare. Annie's works because it respects the basics, instead of cutting corners for appearance. Number 6. Saffron Road. Saffron Road feels different the moment you take the first bite, and not in a flashy way. The flavors come from actual spices, not sugar and salt overload. No artificial colors, no chemical aftertaste, no rubbery textures trying to pass as protein. Here's the quiet truth. Most frozen meals rely on sodium to make weak ingredients tolerable. Saffron Road doesn't need to. The meals taste layered, balanced, and intentional, like someone cooked them, not assembled them. This is freezer food for people who've eaten real food and don't want to go backward just because they're busy. Number 5. Bird's Eye Steam Fresh. Bird's Eye Steam Fresh focuses on one thing: proper freezing. Less added water, better moisture control, and stronger texture retention make these vegetables reliable. When you heat them, they don't collapse or leak water everywhere. That usually means better freezing practices and less filler. Steam Fresh is freezer food that does exactly what it's supposed to do. No more, no less. And that reliability makes it worth keeping stocked. Number 4. Trader Joe's Frozen Vegetables. Trader Joe's frozen vegetables are boring, and that's exactly why they're good. No sauces, no packets, no distractions, just vegetables that were frozen quickly enough to keep their shape and flavor. Ever microwave frozen veggies and they turn into water? That usually means poor freezing practices and excess ice added for weight. Trader Joe's bags rarely do that. Minimal ice crystals are a quiet sign of quality control. This is the brand you trust when you just want vegetables to behave like vegetables. Nothing exciting, nothing disappointing. And honestly, that reliability is rare. Number 3. Primal Kitchen Frozen Bowls. Primal Kitchen stands out because they're unusually honest about what goes into their food. Instead of relying on cheap industrial seed oils, they use avocado oil, which handles microwave reheating far better and is far less prone to oxidation. Their frozen bowls are built around higher protein and minimal added sugar, not filler starches. They also skip the artificial thickeners that make many frozen meals feel gummy or glue-like. The result is food that actually satisfies you without that fake, heavy feeling most microwavable meals leave behind. Number 2. Evol Foods. Evol feels like a brand that actually respects your taste buds. Instead of boiling ingredients into mush and freezing them later, Evol fully cooks real components first, then flash freezes them. That's why the texture holds, rice doesn't collapse, meats don't turn rubbery, and sauces don't taste metallic. They use antibiotic-free meats and whole grains, and while sodium still exists, it's frozen food after all. It's not used as a crutch. You don't get that salt punch meant to hide bad ingredients. This is the kind of frozen meal you grab when you want convenience without feeling tricked. Evol assumes you can taste quality, and that confidence shows up in every bite. Number 1. Amy's Kitchen. Amy's isn't perfect, and that's exactly why people trust it. This is the brand you buy when you're tired of frozen meals pretending to be food. You look at the ingredient list and think, okay, I actually recognize this. What separates Amy's isn't marketing, it's restraint. No artificial preservatives, no neon dyes, no flavor systems designed in a lab. Independent comparisons show Amy's meals average 20 to 30% less sodium than typical frozen dinners, and you can taste that difference immediately. But the real test? You finish the meal and don't feel heavy, bloated, or weirdly thirsty. That's when you know corners weren't cut. Amy's costs more, yes, but it feels like paying for food instead of paying for shortcuts. This is freezer food you don't have to apologize for. But not all brands are worth trusting, as here are 10 brands you should be avoiding at all costs and why. Number 10. Walmart Great Value Frozen Dinners. Let's be honest, almost everyone has grabbed a Great Value frozen meal at least once thinking, how bad can it really be? Here's the problem. These meals are built to hit the lowest price possible, not the lowest risk. Ingredient lists are long, vague, and inconsistent restructured meats, industrial seed oils, and stabilizers doing the real work instead of food. One week the texture is barely acceptable, the next it's watery and bland. That inconsistency isn't accidental, it's a sign of cut-corner sourcing and loose quality control. Yes, they're cheap, but cheap doesn't mean harmless. When a meal is this optimized for cost, you're paying with flavor, digestion, and satisfaction. If a frozen dinner leaves you hungry and disappointed, it's not saving you money, it's wasting it. Number 9. Fast Bites. Fast Bites prioritizes speed and shelf life over actual food quality. Fillers, preservatives, and artificial flavor enhancers dominate, leaving meals that reheat quickly but feel empty and unnatural. Microwaving often reveals mushy textures or uneven heating, a sign the ingredients aren't built to last. Nutrition takes a back seat, and sodium levels are usually higher than they need to be. For anyone seeking convenience without compromise, Fast Bites consistently underdelivers, trading flavor and wholesomeness for a quick fix. Number 8. Encore Frozen Meals. Encore meals lean heavily on restructured meat, artificial smoke flavor, and cheap sauces to create the illusion of a hearty dinner. Texture is inconsistent. Some bites are chewy and rubbery, while others fall apart. Nutritional profiles aren't impressive either, with high sodium and little real protein or fiber. Microwave reheating often makes the gaps in quality obvious. For anyone expecting a satisfying, reliable frozen meal, Encore is a reminder that convenience without care usually ends up disappointing. Number 7. Devour Frozen Meals. Devour markets itself as indulgent, but much of that appeal is surface level. The sauces are overprocessed, overly salty, and built around cheap flavor enhancers rather than quality ingredients. Protein portions are modest, and vegetables, if present, are minimal and often mushy. You're left with high sodium, over-engineered flavors, and a meal that doesn't satisfy like real food should. If you're trying to treat yourself without sacrificing nutrition, Devour fails, delivering hype instead of substance. Number 6. Totino's Microwave Meals. Totino's relies on ultra-refined flours, low-quality oils, and artificial flavor boosters to simulate taste. Meals vanish quickly because there's almost nothing real to digest. Protein is minimal, fiber is non-existent, and the flavor is engineered to trigger cravings. Sodium levels are often high to compensate for weak ingredients. For anyone hoping for a frozen snack that fills and satisfies, Totino's delivers the opposite. Short-term enjoyment followed by hunger and regret. Convenience doesn't have to mean compromise, but here it does. Number 5. Kid Cuisine. Kid Cuisine is built around artificial colors, refined starches, and absurdly high sodium levels, making it questionable even for adults. Many meals have negligible nutritional value, padded with sugar-heavy sauces and fillers. The textures are often mushy, and flavor comes from chemicals rather than real ingredients. For parents or seniors trying to avoid processed overload, these meals are more about marketing than nourishment. What's supposed to be fun food ends up being a laboratory experiment disguised as a frozen dinner. Number 4. Marie Callender's. Marie Callender's once had a reputation for hearty, home-style meals, but many modern versions rely on thickening agents and sugar-heavy sauces instead of real ingredients. Vegetables and meats are often overprocessed, and microwave reheating can reveal uneven textures or sogginess. Sodium levels are high to mask the lack of flavor from genuine ingredients. While nostalgia might draw people in, these meals don't deliver the substance they promise. For those seeking reliable frozen comfort food, some Marie Callender's options now fall short. Number 3. Michelina's. Michelina's frozen meals cut costs by loading sauces with starches and artificial flavor enhancers. The microwave often exposes overprocessing, mushy pasta, watery vegetables, and sauces that separate. Portions are small, and sodium is frequently high to make up for bland base ingredients. Protein and fiber content are minimal, leaving you hungry soon after eating. For anyone looking for convenience without compromise, Michelinas demonstrates how cutting corners for price often comes at the expense of flavor, texture, and satisfaction. Number 2. Hungry Man Dinners. Hungry Man markets its meals as hearty and filling, but much of that perceived size comes from sodium, fat, and filler ingredients rather than real protein or vegetables. Many trays exceed 1,500 milligrams of sodium, which is more than half a day's recommended intake in one meal. Microwave heating exposes sauces and meats that are overly processed and inconsistent. These dinners are marketed as indulgent and satisfying, but they often leave you feeling bloated, overly salty, and let down by what's actually on the tray. Number 1. Banquet Microwave Dinners. Banquet is built on the cheapest possible ingredients, from restructured meats to heavy sauces loaded with seed oils and excess sodium. Portion sizes shrink while sodium climbs, and flavor comes from shortcuts rather than real ingredients. Microwave reheating often leaves meals unevenly cooked or watery. This isn't food, it's a cost-cutting exercise designed to look like a dinner at minimal expense. For anyone hoping for reliability, flavor, or nutrition, banquet meals are more about profit than providing something you genuinely want to eat.